Like the Ignobe River that winds around Antanabao, my career in conservation has followed a winding, colorful, surprising path full of beauty and nature's wonders. My early work took me all over the globe with field conservation projects, endangered species programs, and fighting environmental injustices. But in each and every case I worked on, I found a consistent, troubling lack of success. Long-term conservation projects just never seemed to work. In 1995, I was commissioned to carry out a biological survey in Madagascar. I was tasked with walking 100 miles through pristine rainforest on the Maswal Peninsula. On this peninsula was the tiny village of Antanabao, and I was asked to implement a conservation training program there. As a stranger, I was deeply mistrusted, and were it not for a little boy named Emilian, I would have never integrated into this community. But this little boy trusted me, and that meant that soon his friends and their families would trust me as well. Our relationship only grew over the next several years until November of 1999, when I had to leave for what would be the last time. As Sunny and I left the village, we were intercepted by Emilian and his parents. They wanted to give us their child. Without a translator, we had no way of explaining to them why we couldn't take him, and all we could do at that moment was turn and walk away. Only 5 months later, Cyclone Huda slammed into the east coast of Madagascar, killing nearly 100 people and destroying every home in a 100-mile swath, a swath that included our tiny village of Antanabao. Our numerous requests to conservation groups for funding to help these people went unanswered. It was clear that their focus was, and always would be, only on animals. This forever redefined how I would view conservation, and I came to realize how important relationships were, the personal commitments from one person, one community, to another. So we took a fresh look at the challenges in conservation. More people die from the effects of indoor cooking fires and their smoke than any other single cause. And 3 billion people cutting trees across the globe to fuel these fires is just another leading contributor to species extinction. Extinction is driven by habitat loss, and that is overwhelmingly driven by agriculture. So we created ECOLIFE, a community to save ecosystems and save lives. Since then, we have worked as though lives depended on it, and that's because they do. We have bettered thousands of human lives, saved tens of thousands of trees, protected millions of butterflies and other wildlife through our fuel-efficient stove programs. In 2016, we were given the opportunity to return to Madagascar and search one more time for our lost friends. Finally back in Madagascar for the first time in 16 years, Sunny and I struggled with our emotions. We didn't know whether our boy Emilian would be alive or dead. For years I'd been convinced he hadn't survived. It was Sunny who had always had the strength of spirit to hold hope for all of those years with no news and no means of contacting anyone who could tell us what had happened to him. As we got nearer and nearer to the village, I was still resigned to the likelihood of never finding him, and I was worried about Sunny. There was no trace of the village where we'd left it in 1999, but there was a small handful of people waiting for us on the shore, and they waited out to help us disembark. Then there were helping hands all around us, and equipment was passed left and right, people holding the boat in place. But the hand steadying me as I left the pirogue did not let go. I looked up, and there was Emilian, a grown man, wearing the same kind smile I remembered so well. I fell apart entirely. The moments that followed are a blur in my memory, and all I can remember now are the tears, laughter, and overwhelming waves of joy, love, and relief. Not only had Emilian survived, but many of our other friends were also alive and well. Here was the new Antanambao, rebuilt by these people determined that a cyclone that might destroy their homes, but never their lives. The party that followed our arrival is unmatched in my memory in terms of raw joy. Word had gotten out about our visit, and those who had moved away from Antanambao returned to embrace us and cook for us. Over the course of our relationship with this little community of Antanambao, we'd gone from intruders to friends, and on this visit, to family. Emilian had been too young during our time together to remember me, but he'd grown up hearing stories about what an important relationship we'd had. As the village sang songs of welcome, he caught me crying, and I hid behind dark sunglasses for the rest of the day. And there was another surprise for us in the village. My little boy was now the father of a beautiful little girl of his own. She was only 18 months old during our visit, the same age as Emilian when we first met. During our time here in the 90s, the glowing cooking fires from within their homes had always been a warm and welcome sight, a sign that we would soon be together to exchange meals and stories of the day. Over the intervening years, our perspectives had changed, and we saw these cooking fires all around us with new eyes. We picked up our cameras to document the images for ECOLIFE stove program, and the first scene to meet our eyes was Emilian's girlfriend, sitting in a smoke-filled hut with their baby on her lap. From day one, this baby girl was growing up with smoke-filled lungs. It was confirmation that while vastly different from other conservation groups, the organization that Sunny and I had committed our last 14 years to had been doing the very best things for resources and people. ECOLIFE is working to save one tree, one baby, to build one stove and provide one solution, but thousands of times over. We went to Madagascar to find Emilian, and we did. But we also found something we weren't looking for. There in the little village of Antanambao lay affirmation of our mission, that true and lasting conservation of nature is really all about people.